Mi nombre es Lorenzo y llevo 15 años más o menos trabajando aquí para Littorai y cada año se han plantado árboles para para controlar la erosión de la tierra en esta parte que es parte de arroyo, cerro, y creo que es muy importante para seguir reforestando todas las áreas que no tienen árboles y en el futuro tenga un buen ecosistema y haya mejores árboles y todo, que esté muy bien.
Lorenzo, ¿qué piensas a propósito de cómo crecieron?
El crecimiento de los árboles, hay unos que al principio no se les ponía riego y crecían muy despacio. Después se les puso un sistema de riego y es lo principal, que ya no se murieron muchos árboles. Ya está mejor la plantación y pienso que es mejor para que sobrevivan y ya en el futuro se les puede quitar el riego para que funcione con la lluvia o tengan más raíz para poder sobrevivir.
One of the marvels of the redwood tree is its ability to capture moisture, fog. As you can see, we're in a foggy, moist day. But it's especially important in summertime. We're not in summer, this is the month of December. And in summertime, when the fog is dense in coastal California, the redwood has an amazing ability to capture the moisture, and then it drips down around the drip line of the tree and provides moisture for the tree, for companion species, etc., that live in the area. And so in a draw like this one, which has a natural year-round spring feeding it, having the additional moisture source over time when we're faced with climate change, we think is going to be really important for maintaining this ecosystem. And so what is mostly planted here now, or what is now present, is bay trees. As you can see, these very large trunks right next to me. And the bays are a native species, not usually that long-lived, often colonizers, meaning they take over disturbed areas. And we've begun this process of interplanting all of the redwoods to provide that further shade and additional moisture over the course of the year. So you can see that this part of the slope is a little bit of a different environment. It's a little bit drier. There's a little bit more light infiltration. And so over time, the redwoods that are here, and there's probably only, this one's probably 4 or 5 years old. They're a little younger. This is a more recent planting. But over time, this would really transform this slope, right? It would become much more shady, better moisture retention. You'd start to build up humus over time. So this in 25 years, or especially 50 or 100, could feel quite different than it feels today. And the other reason we wanted to stop here is because in this forest we have an invasive species that's quite problematic, which is ivy. Obviously a non-native version of ivy. And this plant wants to cover the forest floor. It climbs, obviously. It'll strangle trees, doesn't matter what type. It can strangle redwoods, it can strangle bays, it can strangle oaks. And so this forest is actually grazed. So the other job of the forest at Littorai, besides ecosystem diversity, water retention, etc., is as a grazing area for the sheep in late fall when there's no pasture yet. In other words, before our rains have really created more pasture growth, we're able to put the animals in the forest. And one of the wonderful things about the primitive Shetland sheep is they love ivy. So when they're in the forest, they will preferentially come and graze the ivy and leave many of the other natives behind. And I think one of the reasons they like it is it's so succulent. So in the fall, when they're used to nothing but dried pasture, and you come across an ivy leaf with its stem, that's a really lovely sort of succulent thing. And so we've been able to drive down the ivy presence in this forest pretty dramatically over the course of the years. And right where I'm standing corresponds to a spot where we're going to come next year. In other words, the upper part of this, you don't see any ivy at all. And then right where I'm standing is where a patch of ivy begins and goes this direction around the hill. So next year, when we come in, we'll bring the sheep into this section.
So I think aquí en el hueco, no demasiado tantito, no demasiado cerquita a la. Yeah, un poco más por aquí para que no esté. Yeah, there you go. Something like that.
It's also a way for us to invest in the future, meaning that we're doing something that does not have a benefit to Littorai's bottom line today. It has nothing to do with today. It's all about tomorrow. In fact, it's not even about tomorrow. It's about 100 or 200 or 300 years from now. And that investment matters to us because it's our way of saying there's going to be a future, and there's going to be a future beyond climate change. And we believe that we as a species can adapt to climate change, that we can overcome our current sick view of how we live with nature, and that humans can really find a different way to live with nature. And that the discovery of this new way of living with nature, this new relationship to nature, a relationship much more based upon, but not imitating indigenous relationships to nature. This new relationship for those of us who are modern, who were born and educated in a modern Western world, that new relationship, that will be the healthy relationship of the future, and that we're all forming that now. That relationship is happening. And if we at Littorai could say anything to young people now who are despairing about climate change, it's that the adoption of new attitudes towards nature is the beginning of the healing process. And that process, as I said, that happens right now.